Hey, hey, how's it going? So today I'm gonna accidentally pause myself and start again. Hey, how's it going? So today I want to do a movie, talk about a movie called Synchronicity. And I just came across it the other day. It's actually from 2015. Here, let me do the sign thing. It has the YouTube disclaimer and other pertinent information about the videos I make for you people and myself. So there you can see I have included the the main cast. As usual, there's a lot of other people, but they don't, you know, they're not prominent in the story. So these are the main people that you want to know about. And my disclaimers. There we go. Okay, so it came out in 2015. And I actually started watching it, and then it was kind of like, I don't know. But then, I don't know how much long later, like, I don't know, maybe a month, a few weeks, somebody, I think, put it in on Twitter, and it ended up in my feed. Like, some outside source brought it back to my attention because it was just sitting in my Amazon cache, I guess, and I started like the first half an hour maybe, and just, I don't know, I guess I lost interest, whatever. But I saw it on Twitter and I said, oh wait, I think I know this, and did my due diligence, did the IBDM and so forth, and saw what it's about, or at least what the description was, or one of them. And the one that snagged me said that you could, this is not verbatim, but it said that you could see that its obvious influence had been Blade Runner. And I thought, okay, and I'm pretty sure, no, I know that I said on Twitter, it might be all right. I'll chance it. I'll give it a try. And so I did. And I have to say that the second time I decided to go ahead and, look at it and give it a chance, something different was going on from the first time when I noticed it. It all of a sudden had like meaning. It's going to be unexplained meaning for you folks because it's personal, and you don't. I mean, I know I share a lot, but I don't have to share everything. So anyway, it was just ringing some bells inside me, and I thought, well, heck, if it's doing that, I better watch it. It also said that it was sci-fi noir. And right off the bat, I just want to say that, it's one of those alternate facts kind of things where a definition splits off from the one that you'll find in the dictionary, or that like everybody associates with the word or phrase or situation. So I know when I am looking at a noir movie, which alongside sci-fi and action movies, I love a good noir mystery. And this one is an interesting interpretation of the word noir. And let me just get it off my chest right now. To me, it seemed to equate with not having lights on. And it was the weirdest thing. There are scenes where people are in bars, and bars can be dark, but day or night, they go into the bar and none of the bar lights would be on, like none of the liquor lights, like no beer signs is what I'm saying. So you can see maybe why I kind of went with they just are not turning lights on, and there's your noir. But that's just my impression. No one has to like take it home and live with it if they don't want to. I have some notes. It does that thing that, like, well, there's time travel involved. I'll just get that out there up front. In fact, the story is about, what is the guy's name? The main guy, I can't even think of his name. Hold on, let me turn around and look. Jim Deal. He's a physicist, and he works with a couple of other physicists, Chuck and Maddie. They're basically his assistants and friends. and they've been working together to like get money or funding rather for this project. And they, by the time you meet them, they've gotten some stuff done, but they've reached a point where they got to go begging for money. And so that starts one part of the story, and that's where it starts to get kind of confusing. When Jim goes out to meet with a potential funder, he is first sort of waylaid by this young woman, and she's like really coming on to him hard, I thought, for like a stranger. And so that made me think, well, I mean, he even thinks it's suspicious. And I agreed, because I was suspicious. Is she like some kind of espionage, industrial espionage, sweet treat or honeypot? It's one of those things. A honeypot. Is she a honeypot? She was just so familiar and so like smarmily knowing with him. But that, as the movie progresses, resolves in a number of different ways. So, it being a time travel movie, there's going back and forth a lot. And there's a lot of movies that do it. I'm going to bring up Inception just because it's the most well-known one currently. I think, like, if I bring that up, I'm talking about confusing going back and forth. But in Inception, the only real confusing thing to me was the end. And the way I understood it was they leave it open so you can decide how you think it ended with, I don't remember the character that Matt Damon played. That is a Matt Damon one, right? I hope that's right. I didn't know I was good. Well, I guess I didn't know I was going to talk about it, so I suppose I should have looked it up, but I didn't. Oh, well. Pretty sure it's Matt Damon, though. And the whole going back and forth in time, I'm back on Synchronicity now, by the way, is somewhat confusing, but not anywhere near as bad as like any other of the movies that you would think of, like the one I was just talking about before. It seemed like there was some to me that didn't need to happen. I mean, they're basically flashbacks, and it's not uncommon for that to be like a really unpopular and sometimes characterized as lazy technique. Not something that I can't say anything about it. I haven't even tried to like put together a story with that much going on, so I can only like appreciate it as a viewer and just sort of ingest it and do what I do. So, but they did do a pretty good job of not being ultra confusing, and actually, even with like the extra sort of flashbacking that I think it was just to fill time, like it might have just been B-roll or something. I mean, it didn't hurt it, or that's my point. It didn't hurt it or like make much difference, so I didn't see the point in some of it being there. But what I was wanting to get to was that it really wasn't all that confusing. It was pretty linear. The young woman, well, okay, because it's time travel, there are more than one timeline, which is why there's so many flashbacky back and forth things. Because every time they did something new, some new element was added and then something changed. But eventually, Chuck, that's the friend, Jim, puts himself through the time machine, and that's a whole new other element to put a ripple in time. And so the person that he and his friends want to seek the venture capital from is Klaus Meisner, who's played by Michael Ironside, who he's a veteran actor, character actor, and he's very good at the sort of just below the surface menace, even when he's being like, I can't say civil or nice, but, or I can't say nice but civil. He's civil, but just know, like, say the wrong word and he's gonna tip into monster mode. I mean, and eventually he does, and it's not as bad as I've seen him do in other movies because he's a businessman in this one and not like a soldier or a monster fighter or whatever else he's done. So it's that everyday menace that you deal with, like your boss. If they don't happen to like you, they know that they can do stuff that they know they're doing to mess with you, or letting you know like who's boss or who's got the control. So it's kind of like that kind of guy that he's playing. But still, that's pretty menacing. I mean, people like that can totally like flip your life around. It's certainly happened to me. So he's very good at what he does. I wanted to cringe every time I saw poor Jim have to interact with him. There's one scene in the movie though where it's after he's put himself through the time machine and he's going back to rectify things with both the young lady, who I'll talk about more in a minute, with the young lady that seems to be attached when you first see her to Klaus Meisner, and the suspicious part I was talking about earlier. So he goes to the building that, this is one thing I was not ever really able to clear up to my satisfaction. They always seem to be going to other buildings, but it always looked like the same building, and I think that was a budget concern thing. But the building that they spent the most time in, that is Meisner's building, I guess his apartment in the scene that I'm thinking of, Jim is going up the elevator, right, in this building, and you can see all the floors. And I was looking at it, and I'm thinking, he's going to meet Meisner. So this was the progression of my thoughts. He's going to meet Meisner, and now he's in the belly of the beast, going up the elevator, which then looked like a spine, and all the floors going up that seemed to be horseshoe-shaped, like from, if I were the spine, and you were the viewer, and you're looking at me, all the floors are sort of like in a horseshoe shape with an opening so that you can see where the spine is and the elevator going up and down. But they looked curved like ribs. And I thought, whoa, really cool you are. You thought of Belly of the Beast. But it was a cool visual. Like, it did, like, make that progression of thoughts happen. And that was, I thought, like, one of the high points of the cinematography and the movie. Like, it was just such a great look, so like stark and bleak, and you felt like it wasn't like a happy, positive, like whoopee yay scene. Like, you really felt like something not good is about to go down. Like there's a feeling of slight dread, you could say, and rightfully so, because at that point in time the guy was like potentially dead. But then he also has come to realize, and I mean realize, like, not like, oh, this now makes sense to me, like reality happens and realization is happening, that there is a multiverse. And so in that multiverse, or timelines, you could say timelines in this case, there are multi timelines, that there were a different Jim for a different, like the whole crew on each different timeline. And he's realized this, and I'm not sure if it was for the viewer to see, or if it was for the viewer to see and also Michael was cognizant of this, but he did visit some timelines where the Jim was dead. There was one where he died. And so now we'll talk more about the young lady. As I said, she waylaid him before Jim could get to the car where Klaus Meisner is sitting. And he's come and he's gone, but he's gotten in his car. And so, you know, Jim speaks with this girl, and he's just not really sure, like, who she is or what's up with her. And he's a little suspicious because of the smarmy knowingness that I mentioned. And he goes then with the girl trailing to the window of the limo that Klaus Meisner's sitting in, about to leave. And he says, well, I need, a certain, God, come on, material that you only have, that I have to get from you. I think it's uranium or something like that, to run the time machine. And Meisner says, well, why don't you come on to dinner with me and my wife, and we will talk about it. Because first, Jim tries to get him to come to the lab and see what he wants to, get funding and this material for, to, like, get the guy to do it. But the guy turns and he says, well, no, just come to dinner with me and my wife. And then the girl that he meets there on the street before he starts talking to Meisner gets in the car too. Like, Meisner says, oh, well, why don't you bring your girlfriend? So there's a problem. Chuck is just like, well, sure, I'll bring, he doesn't even know her name, so she has to supply the name. And she just skips on over and gets in on the other side of the limousine, and everybody gets in the car. It turns out, because of the timeline switching, which you will learn later in the film, Meisner and the girl, Abby, they already know each other, and well, like, they know each other, like, carnally, like, they got a thing on the side thing going. But Jim doesn't realize this at that point. And that's just, I just want to, like, get that part in there before I talk more about this girl. In one of the earlier scenes or timelines at this point, like, after this point in my head, after seeing it and thinking about it, in this earlier timeline, this girl is basically hanging out with Jim to siphon information from him. Like, she may like him or whatever, but it seems like she's very mercenary and uses her body and her sex as a tool and currency to get what she wants. And so she got him, Jim, she takes him to a bar. They go to bar a couple of times. They go to the bars, they're the only ones in the bars. Somehow, I guess they're staying open with no customers because they've never turned the lights on. I don't know. I guess later there's a scene where there's 2 or 3 more patrons or somebody leaving, or, but they're very sparsely populated. Like, there ain't no one there. Like, what is keeping the doors open? It can't just be because they don't turn the lights on. And it can't be that they're selling booze, because to who? Sorry, sidetracked. But while they're in the bar, the girl is, like, listening to him, like, oh, stars in my eyes. It's the most wonderful thing I've ever heard. Oh, gosh, I'm so starstruck and so innocent and dumb little doe. Like, oh, my gosh, wow. And she's, like, writing down his words, and he's thinking, yeah, this chick's, like, really into me. And come to find out later, she is playing him very much so. And the reason why she's doing it, and she's meeting him in multiple timelines, so they're both kind of, like, zooping back and forth in timelines and not necessarily meeting each other or knowing what the other's doing, probably because there are the multiplicity of the timelines or universes. They're able to do things without each other's knowledge initially. Like, eventually, pennies begin to drop, and Jim gets hip to, like, what's happening basically with this woman and Meisner in the other timelines. And it all is very they did a really good job. Like, I was gonna say it's not like a really dense story. It's very small and contained, and that's why I think it's low budget. And because every building looks like the same building, um, but they did a good job under those circumstances. It is much easier to follow, I thought, than Inception. And what am I trying to say? I don't know, but I guess it really like gives you a look at how we are about like getting what we want at all costs, and like I was gonna say Ironside, the actor's real name. In Meisner's case, it's just a hole of acquisition. I just came up with that right now, but I think it works because he enjoys like holding his power over people. He pretty much says so. So it let me just check my notes and make sure I'm not forgetting to talk about anything I had to say. Sorry. Oh, I don't have to sing. So yeah, I have some music playing. You may or may not be able to hear it. I decided to dispense with the headphones because I have it really low. And I have noticed in watching many videos over 5 or 6 years of watching YouTube that usually you cannot hear whatever the person thinks is so loud in the room with them. Like I hear, oh, the construction guys, and the you know what I hear sometimes is dog toenails. That's pretty much all I ever hear. I don't hear the gardeners and the machines, and I don't hear the cat scratching at the door to get in or out. Like, so I just put my music on. I put it low. I don't have to like also be tangled in earphones, and I have a lot of, you don't even know. There's like a lot of busy going on, like right below this level of what you can see. So I didn't want to, I didn't want to speak English either, I guess. I did not want to add another cable to the knot. Okay, nope. Sorry to blank air you like that for those moments, but just want to make sure I talked about everything I wanted to talk about. I didn't have anything more heavy than I've already said to say, so that's about it. Except for I really enjoyed it, and I mean, if you are into that kind of thing, like sci-fi, noir, or whatever, and you're bored and you got nothing to do, and you're between movies that you want to like talk about here, because you're me, you watch it. But it was decent. It was pretty good. Just because it doesn't have a bunch of big names and huge like effects budget, story can go a long way. And also, like, if you apply your own like imagination and tune in and get into it, like, it's pretty good. I gotta say, I really wanted to dislike that girl like from the moment she opened her mouth, but I came to feel better about her because through everything they went through, she and Jim and Chuck and Maddie and even Meisner, really, his wife. That's right. I forgot about his wife. So I did not put her, the actress, the actor, or her name in the credits because she's in there so briefly. Um, I'll add it in the information box. But there was a priceless scene when Jim is trying to make his pitch at the dinner with the wife, who Meisner has already pointed out is a pretty, I guess, joyless person in his view. Like, that's what came across to me. So they're at the dinner, and Jim's trying to make his pitch, and I think Meisner had already decided to go ahead and do it. Excuse me, but I think he was having like poker face and being like, I don't know. So the wife pipes in with her little questions. Sorry to minimize her that way, but that's exactly what I meant to do. And is, I don't know, trying to stick a fork in Jim or something. It was not. I mean, she's the beneficiary of the husband's like earnings, but yeah. So she says something to Jim, and of course he doesn't want to be too rude to the wife because he wants to get this guy's help, and the guy's looking at him like, well, what are you gonna say? What are you gonna do? So Abby pipes up and says, well, I used to think what you think, Mrs. Meisner, until I heard of a little guy named Nikola Tesla. And what she was referring to specifically was the fact that, well, what she said was, what she was referring to specifically was that more than one person can come up with a same invention at the same time. And it's just circumstances and timing that lets someone else be the victor and the inventor, and then you basically erasing like the accomplishments of all the other people that also did the same thing at about the same time. But she also said the difference between Tesla and Edison, and if you don't know about the sort of interaction or dynamic between them, then check your history, because if you're interested, it's a good story. I mean, it's kind of sad and hurtful, but it's informative. So she basically, when she comes to the end of what she has to say, she says the difference between Tesla and Edison is that Tesla was, I forget what she said about Tesla, like nice or good or whatever, something along those lines. And what she said about Edison is that Tesla was nice, Edison was a dick. And yeah, that's kind of holding true to the story. All right, that's about all I have to say about that. It's a good watch, and it's fast. So if you got some time to kill, it's a good filler. Thank you, and good night.